right, so I'm going to move myself over here so I don't get distracted with myself. So basically, the Motus network is a, first off, my name is Catalina Amaya-Perilla. I work for Lotek. I'm located in New Zealand. Some of you might have seen me in some of the Shorebird conferences, and well, some of the conferences in Australia, China, Korea, and New Zealand. And I come today to talk to you about our tags, but more than anything about the Motus network. So the reason, the thing is that the Motus network works with some tag, a specific type of tag that are coded tags. So at the beginning, coded tags were originally meant for fisheries, and they were developed by Lotek Wireless Inc. For fisheries. And the idea of this is that having a big group of fish coming in the same place, like for example, the enter of a certain place, and you can see the presence of 500 fish or so in one certain area coming at the same time. With traditional radio tracking, you would have to flip between frequencies to be able to track 500 fish, and this was quite impossible. So coded tags were developed to do that, to have a data logging receiver that receive more than 500 individuals at the same time without any flicking through frequencies, okay? So the normal beeper frequency, you have one individual per frequency. You also have pulse parameters that are in milliseconds and pulses per minute. So you have a beep that can last, let's say, 20 milliseconds, and then you have 40 pulses per minute. With coded tags, that beeper is kind of like cut in little burst intervals. So instead of having a beep for 20 seconds, you have little prrr, it sounds like that, and you cut that beep in different little segments, and that creates a unique code that needs to be decoded by a data logging receiver. And it's very good for automated presence absence studies to detect if in the case of originally developed, a fish is in one place. Then conversations with the Birds Canada and Mike Tillard, one of our avian telemetry specialists in Canada, they thought that they could develop, they could kind of like transform the technology from fisheries to birds. And that was quite a challenge because we're talking about something that could potentially be weigh more than 1 kg of fish to grams to 15 grams of a bird. So the technology had to be developed. And the first study that was performed by Birds Canada and Lotek was done in Long Point in Ontario. And they wanted to check how the movement of birds and when the birds use the habitat in Long Point, and where, in what direction they were going to go. Okay, so that was kind of like the first study of birds and the beginning of Motus. And then from, like I said on my presentation, the tags can be very small, so they can be actually 0.26 grams. We have released to the market ones that are very, very small. They are 0.13 grams. They actually, I don't know if you have seen on Twitter and Instagram, they're being used at the moment in the States for tracking Asian hornets, and they were able to do that and trying to destroy the nests. They can have a long life, so it depends on the model and the burst interval. And like I said, it is very good for presence absence studies. They don't require manual tracking. You can just set up the base station and open it up to detect the presence of the birds that are flying nearby. It's one frequency, and you can have more than 500 individuals in one single frequency, and one at a time, sorry. The base stations can be put in strategic places, stopovers, breeding grounds, feeding stations, colonies. One thing that I have to say, manual tracking with coded tags is difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult because remember that you have 500 individuals in the same frequency. So you need a data logging receiver that you can do manual tracking. And also the base stations come to a cost. And that's the reality of this network, that the tags are much cheaper than a GPS, and more lighter, like way lighter than a GPS. But the base stations, the first payment of the base station is quite significant, and maybe this is why this has been taking a while for the East Asian Australasian Flyway to take off. So the base stations can be super fancy, or they can be simple. Okay, so here, this is a picture that I took in Canada, and the idea was to dismount this base station because they wanted to put the antennas a little bit higher. And you can see in here, I'm just trying to get my laser pointer. This is amazing. So you can see here the data logging receiver is inside a Pelican case. So the data logging receiver is in a Pelican case, and then they put it in another Pelican case just for protection. And this was just before late spring, and it was absolutely covered with ants. So the data logging receivers need to be protected by against the elements. And then you have kind of like a setup where you have the antennas at the end, facing strategically to potentially to another base station, and you have to kind of like stabilize them against the wind. And like I said, this is Stuart McKenzie trying to dismount the base station. You also need solar panels, and the idea of this base station is that it was going to be mount at the top of a tower. Okay, so the longer the highest the antennas are, the more distance range you're going to cover. The more elements the antennas have, the more distance range you're going to have. But by saying that, I also have, for a flyway, it's important the distance range, but at the same time I have to say that I have customers that use this technology as a way to understand, for example, if a bird is parasitizing a specific nest, so they only have a one element antenna underneath the nest. So it has different capabilities, okay? And like I said, they can be, the antennas, the setup can be super fancy, or you can have like the Colombians and the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, where they have a piece of like a stick, and this is a guala, it's a bamboo, and then they have the setup of the antennas and the base station. You cannot see the base station, but this is a setup that they have in the Andes. And I will try to show you this and see if it works. And it's going to load up in another page, so I'll bring it when it loads up. But this is kind of like some of the capabilities of the network. Of course, you need the base stations to be able to have this set up. If there are no base stations, you can deploy the tags in all the birds in the world, but you're not going to have base stations to detect the presence of those birds. So this is an example of Rednon's. It's a study that was performed in 2014 to 2016, and this is available in the Motus network website. And you can see that you see the straight line, because you need to understand that the presence of the birds is detected by the base station, but the story between base station is not told. Okay, so if you have a base station, let's say this one in Canada, and you can see it here, it's a straight line. So you can potentially you can determine that one of the base stations had an antenna pointing towards the stations over here, and then that's why you have that straight lines. Okay, so I'll continue with the presentation. So every single one of these small yellow points is a base station. And as you can see, this is a little bit depressing, but we're getting there, we're getting there. The Americas is the one that has the most number of base stations. And the three collaboration projects, basically, they work in 3 different frequencies. We have in the Americas, we have 166.380. In Europe, we have 150.100, and in East Asian Australasian Flyway, we have 151.500. Okay, so just another example of a very small pass around a thrush that was tracked from Colombia to Canada. You can see the, like I said, the different base station receiving the signal of the NTQB2 or the corded tags that was put on this species. Okay. So just coming back to this side of the world, we have, there are 163 base stations in Western Australia. The tags are mainly, the project there are mainly used for bats. In the north part of Western Australia, we have a total of 23 base stations. This project, and you can find the information in Motus, is by biologic environment. The project here in the north of the Western Australia is by Darwin University with Hamish Campbell and Tara Crew. And they have 23 base stations, and this is for a movement of Goldian finches. And here we have in New South Wales, we have, like I said, Andrea Griffin with 1 base station in New South Wales, and that is a project for shorebirds. And in Taiwan, we have Shungyu Xiang with 2 base stations there. Okay, so like I said, there's a lot of gaps that we need to fill in, and I just found out in PowerPoint you can put little dots, so we can work on that in a minute. Right, so yeah, sorry, I forgot to do that. So like I said, the blue circles are the ones that are base station for shorebird projects. I have to say something about this. Although, yes, these 2 projects in Western Australia are not meant are not for shorebirds. If someone, for example, deploy tags in Western Australia, these base stations will pick up the transmitters. These stations in the north of Western Australia will pick up the transmitters, okay? So although, like I said, it's a collaboration between researchers, okay? I'll tell you the upcoming releases that Lotek is going to have. So like I said, we have the smallest, this very small nano tag, the nano pin, that is going to be 0.13 grams. We're very excited about the SRX 1200. That is a data longing receiver that is going to kind of like improve the capabilities that that we had from our last model, and you can have remote download with a modem, and you can scan, code it, and beeper tags at the same time, and that's very exciting. We are going to, we have started selling Pinpoint Argus models, solar and battery ones with altitude data. Also a Pinpoint Argus beacon, so we'll have a VHF beacon for you to find a carcass or the animal if it's in a specific place. And also a pinpoint cell, so that's our first GPS GSM, and it's going to start at 5.8 grams. And the one that we are really excited is our Sunbird tag. So this is an Argus only tag that will start at 2 grams. And that's me for now.